Welcome back. It is another time here at Santiago Peak. Yes, I'm working on this project still. There's so many things that just come up, and so this kind of gets kicked back because it's not an emergency project. Today we're going to be talking about RDS. We're not talking about this necessarily, but we're talking about RDS or RBDS here in the United States. What is it? How does it work? And what does that mean to you? And how do you interact with RDS? I'm going to be calling it RDS from here on out, just because it's easier. It's one less letter. So, all right, let us do that. But the other thing that we're doing here, I'm not talking about SD-WAN today, but the reason I'm up here is kind of twofold. One, continue working on this project, but two is to put in another internet access point for our SD-WAN. I'm not talking about SD-WAN. I'm not, I promise. But I'm putting one in today, that's why I'm up here. So let's get this started and let's start talking about RDS. There's still a good amount to do here. Still have a few things that I need to connect into the network. I need to put in RF. Still have a lot of relay control and telemetry stuff that I need to still connect. Okay, I know I promised I wouldn't talk about SD-WAN, but real quick, these are the Cradlepoint routers that we got for them. They're all, Cradlepoint has this network management system, connect all these into, so it's kind of nice. I'll be able to see almost all of my Cradlepoint devices except for one because it's on a different service. But we might replace it with one of these because this is actually fairly inexpensive. This is the IBR 600C. I could put two SIMs in here, does Wi-Fi, does Ethernet. Anyways, this is what we're putting in. This is pretty cool. Well, I guess we'll see how well it works up here because we're on top of a mountain and AT&T has one up there for their out-of-band management and control, and that one seems to have some trouble staying connected. So we'll see if this works or not. I have my Toughbook. Yes, it's a convertible Toughbook. I have my Toughbook out. I'm connected to the internet. So now let's see if this guy is phoning home, because if he is, that will be very helpful. Yep. Santiago Peak, it's up, it's on, it's working, woo! So let's talk about RDS, RBDS, and what types of information can be carried on an RDS data stream. Now, you obviously can send your now playing information, you know, such and such song by such and such artist on such and such station. And, you know, that's fine. You can send the station name over it, so when you tune on your radio and you look at the display, it'll say, oh, such and such station. You know, K-Earth 101 or whatever the station name is. If your station has translators, you could do what are called alternate frequencies. So what in theory should happen is that as your car is driving between the different coverage area, if you lose signal on the main station, what'll happen is your RDS will have told the receiver, hey, you could also listen to this station on these other frequencies. So these other frequencies are your translator frequencies, and the radio will automatically tune to those frequencies. In theory, I personally have never had a radio that did that, or maybe nobody had it set up and configured. I don't know. But it is possible, and it is something that is kind of cool. And we will do that on one of our stations. One of our stations has a translator, and if we go back and we talk about what a translator is basically a station that extends the coverage of the main station on another frequency. So if you have 88.9 as our main station, then you can have a translator on, say, 96.9, and then what'll happen is that, in theory, with the RDS, that it will switch your car radio over to that when you get into that coverage area and out of the main station's coverage area, in theory. So what other things can the RDS data stream provide to your car radio? Well, some car radios can have their clock set by the station's RDS signal. Now, what we're doing is we make sure that our clock on this device is set to a master clock, a GPS synchronized master clock. So that way, the time that it is sending over the air is correct. I mean, not very cool if we're sending a time that's drifting or it's way off. That would cause you to be late to work. That's not a good thing. We don't want to do that. Program identification. This is a PI code. This is the hexadecimal code of what our call sign is. And our call signs in the United States are all set by somebody, FCC, NRSC. Honestly, I don't know. I'll have to check on that. But all the hexadecimal codes, all the PI codes are set for every station in the country for every possible permutation of call sign. Program service name, PS name. This is going to be something like our station long name, if you will. K-Earth 101, as the example I was using earlier, that is the PS name. It's not necessarily your call sign, because not necessarily everybody's call sign is how they're identifying themselves over the air. You'll notice that some stations will have like WVZX, but they're calling themselves Spirit 103. So that's the name that you would use in the PS field. Program type, and this will identify what type of programming that your station is. And there's a list of about 30 or so different types of programming that you can select. And in theory, in the early days, in the pie in the sky days of RDS and the RBDS, they were thinking that, oh, I want to listen to classical music. So I can tell my radio, look for stations that are saying that they're classical stations. And it would let you rotate through those. Radio text, that is another one. So if your display can show longer forms of information, you'll notice in my Bronco, it will show the PS name, and that'll be like 8 characters that it'll rotate through. But the RT information, the radio text data, is a longer string of information. And so we can put, the artist or the title of the song by artist name on station name. And so it lets you have a little bit more freedom with what you can put on there. Not every radio can display that. That's where you have to make sure that the PS data that you're sending is also the same. So that way it stays in sync. There's other data that you can also send over the RDS stream, and things like TomTom navigation data. Microsoft had a watch that would give you sports scores and stocks and weather. I don't remember what it was called, but that used RDS data. There's alerting and warning products out there. I think the one is called Alert FM. And what they do is they piggyback off of that extra data part of the RDS into your RDS encoder, and that will help them send out other alert information for like schools or power plants or things like that. So how is this guy connected into the station? Well, this is how you're supposed to do it. I will not say this is how I am doing it because I ran out of cables, but this is how you're supposed to do it. So your audio processor takes your audio and creates a composite feed. Think of it like a mini version of your RF stream, your RF signal on the air. So it takes that multiplex, that MPX feed, and you loop that through the RDS encoder. What that will do is inject the RDS data. If you look at it on a spectrum, and I'll show you that in a second, but if you look at it on a spectrum, you'll see that RDS data is above the audio data. So there's different spots for different things on an FM station. So your MPX data your MPX stream, if you will, signal comes out of the audio processor into the RDS encoder, out of the RDS encoder, and into the transmitter. That's one way. You can synchronize, I think, from the RDS encoder into the audio processor and from the audio processor into the transmitter, or straight from the RDS encoder into the transmitter and separately for the audio processor. There's different ways of doing it. What's really cool, and this, we'll talk about this a little bit later when I'm farther along on that project, but there's another product that we've been using. Again, this goes back to the virtual servers. Remember, that's my new fun toy right now. Virtual servers can create an MPX stream, the composite data, send it digitally, and that will include your audio that's all processed. It will include the pilot tone, so when your car radio says stereo, and it will include the RDS data already built in. That's going to be cool. So, working on that project. There are some pieces that are back ordered that I ordered back in October, I think it was, October. And I was told a ship date of April. Yeah, April. We'll see if April comes around. Maybe mid-April we'll have a video about that new product. But back to RDS. So that is what we're really talking about. It's somewhat simple, but there's a whole lot more to it, and it's something that we all take for granted. There is a story of someone I look up to in engineering. Early days of RDS, they had an RDS encoder, and another station across town had an RDS encoder, and they had a keyboard attached to it, and they had a little display that showed what the RDS said, and so they were typing notes back and forth to each other. Not innocuous stuff, just, hey, how's it going? Because at the time, there were very, very few cars that had RDS receivers or RDS capable receivers in them. Until, I believe it was a manager or another person, a salesperson or someone, called up and said, hey, I'm getting these weird messages on my radio, on the display on the radio. And that's when they realized fun's over. But we take it for granted, but it's there. It's part of our culture now. It's part of what we expect, and that is now playing information. Okay, well, we gotta close things up here before we head out. Let's turn our lights off. We are much closer than we were before today getting up here. And that's good, because, you know, I'm really, really, really wanting to get this project finished. This rack needs to go. This stuff needs to go in the new rack. But I'm still working on that. Okay. Oh, I've got to close my front. Doors here. Okay. Alright, what's going on here? Oh. There we go. Stuck on something. Okie dokie. Let's go. Isn't that beautiful out there? It's nice and clear, actually. And cold. Let's go. Come on. Kind of an important thing for a lot of people, you know, the now playing. We've become used to the now playing aspect of streaming and of you know, all these different. We've become used to the now playing features being available, whether it's through streaming, whether it's by, you know, just Apple Music or Spotify or anything like that. You have the now playing data, and it tells you artist and title. So people expect that out of radio, and so. There we go. So being able to provide that will help us to keep our audience a little bit better. But, you know, when you're listening to a song on the radio, you kind of want to know, well, who is that artist? Who is that mystery musician? Well, it's 6:20. Kind of got off the mountain a little late today. Anyways, that's why we're driving down in the dark. Because it's still wintertime. Problem is, it's a Friday night. And I'm probably going to have a good amount of people driving up kind of fast off these roads at night. Since they've gotten off of work and are making their way up here for whatever reason. Nighttime off-roading. So that's our discussion about RDS and how it works with your radio and your cars. And oh, there's someone behind me. Hello. And they're stopping, probably trying to figure out what in the world I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. Anyways, so that's RDS. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a part of this channel. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. If not, sorry. Subscribe if you're not. Watch some of the other videos while you're here. Leave a comment if you have questions. I'll try to respond to them. And we will see you next time. It is cold right now and windy. I am freezing. I need to go and clean up and go home. Look, it's dark outside. Okay, gotta go. Bye.